What if I told you that every cultural movement you heard of, whether it's feminism, climate activism, or LGBTQ rights, wasn't just a bunch of passionate people rallying for a cause? Nope. Behind every major societal shift, there is a web of hidden forces quietly steering the ship. Things like power struggles, media spin, and psychology that pushes us to join a cause in the first place. In the next few minutes, we are pulling back the curtain on three powerful forces shaping every cultural movement: who's calling the shots, how media frames what we believe, and how shared identity turns individuals into a united force. Here's something to think about. One of these forces is already influencing your life in ways you have probably never even noticed. Stick around and I'll show you exactly how it's happening right under your nose. Let's unravel this thread. A cultural movement is like tossing a pebble in society's pond. It starts small, but ripples outwards, making waves that change the game. It's an organized effort, powered by shared beliefs, values, or goals, usually aimed at challenging the status quo and sparking new ways of thinking, living, or expressing ourselves. Take the Renaissance, for example. It wasn't just about fancy paintings and marble statues. It was Europe's version of hitting refresh in 14th to 17th centuries. People went from let's just follow tradition to wait, what if we actually thought for ourselves? That mindset reboot led to breakthroughs in science, art, and even how humanity viewed itself. Fast forward to the 20th century, the civil rights movement in the US wasn't just few protests here and there. It was a full-blown fight against racial discrimination led by icons like Martin Luther King Jr. and countless unsung heroes. The result? Game-changing laws like the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Then there is the hippie movement of 1960s. Sure, they are remembered for peace signs, tie-dye, and groovy music, but they were also pushing back against war and rigid social norms. They championed love, freedom, and environmental causes. Fun fact, they helped launch the Earth Day in 1970. Pretty impressive for a group often dismissed as just dreamers, right? And it's not all protests and politics. Look at Romanticism in the 18th century. It was basically society's way of saying enough with this industrial gloom. Let's celebrate emotions, nature, and individuality. It reshaped art, literature, and even how people viewed the life itself. So, what makes a cultural movement tick? It's passion, shared purpose, and a burning desire to change the narrative. Whether it's feminism, punk rock, or today's environmental activism, cultural movements are humanity's way of saying we're not just gonna sit here and take it. Let's talk about power structures, the behind the scenes forces running the show in cultural movements. It's like thinking you are the star of the play only to realize someone backstage controls the spotlight and maybe even the script. First up, governments. They can either be the biggest cheerleaders or total buzzkills. Take same-sex marriage. Some countries legalized it, spreading waves of acceptance worldwide. Meanwhile, places like Russia or China, they hit mute on movements they don't like. It's not just about making laws, it's about deciding what even gets talked about. Imagine pausing a movie, but only during scenes they find inappropriate. Second, corporations. Think of corporations as influencers. Some are genuine, pushing for real change. Tesla, for example, made electric cars cool and turned saving the planet into a fashion statement. But then there is greenwashing. Companies slapping eco-friendly on products while quietly polluting like it's an Olympic event. It's like the cereal box that says made with whole grains but lists sugar as their first ingredient. And finally, the elites. Behind every big movement, there are wealthy donors, lobbyists, and think tanks shaping the narrative. Consider billionaire Michael Bloomberg. He has donated billions to fight climate change and helped shut down coal plants through the Beyond Coal campaign. But wait, Bloomberg also invests heavily in renewable energy. Saving the planet also means padding his portfolio. It's like being a knight in shining armor who happens to own the castle you're defending. These power structures work in layers. Governments set the rules, corporations play along when it's profitable, and elites fund the whole operation, usually with a side of self-interest. Meanwhile, regular folks like us, we are left wondering if we are part of the movement or just the audience eating overpriced popcorn. Knowing who holds the power and why they wield it is the key. But power alone isn't enough. The real game changer is how the media frames the world around us, sometimes without us even noticing. The media, TV, newspaper, online articles, has a sneaky superpower. It shapes how we see the world. This magic trick is called media framing. Think of a news story about a protest. One headline might say, "Passionate citizens demanding change." Another might say, "Rioters caused chaos in the streets." Same event, totally different vibe. It's like picking a fancy frame for a photo. It highlights a certain parts while cropping out the rest. Now let's talk social media, home of cute dog videos and relentless opinion wars. Algorithms are like personal DJs for your brain. They learn what you like, sometimes better than you know yourself, and keep serving up the content that fits your vibe. Sounds convenient, right? Until you realize your feed has become an echo chamber. You see stuff you agree with while opposing ideas vanish like leftover pizza at a party. That's why online controversies explode out of nowhere. It's not magic. It's the algorithm cranking up the volume. Media also loves playing storyteller, creating heroes and villains. Remember 2008 financial crisis? The media framed bankers as evil masterminds and struggling homeowners as the underdog heroes. It's not just about what happened, it's about how the story felt. So next time you're scrolling through your feed or watching the news, remember, you're not just getting information, you're getting a perspective. And knowing that is how you stay one step ahead. Let's talk about the magic of collective identity. You know that electric feeling when you're chanting at a rally or screaming for your favorite sports team? It's not just hype, it's social identity theory doing its thing. People need to belong. We naturally gravitate towards groups that share our values, whether it's a political cause, a fandom, or even your local book club. And once you are in, boom, us versus them mode kicks in. Suddenly, your group isn't just good, it's the best, no contest. Look at the environmental movement. Back in the 70s, people thought it was just for tree huggers. Then came Earth Day and that iconic crying Native American ad. Suddenly, the cause had a face. People saw themselves in the fight, and the movement exploded. Even today, a simple recycling logo says, "Hey, this is our responsibility." Symbols work because they tap into something primal, like emotional Wi-Fi connecting all us. Movements don't run on logic, they run on emotion. In 2019, millions in Hong Kong marched for democracy, risking arrest and violence. The shared belief in freedom united them under symbols like umbrellas and flags, turning a city struggle into a global call for justice. Psychologists call this emotion to action pipeline. When you feel something deeply, you are more likely to do something about it. Now, let's talk about rituals and symbols, the glue that holds movements together. Think pride parades with all the vibrant flags or instantly recognizable raised fist. These aren't just cool visuals, they're powerful unifiers. When people wave the same flag or chant the same slogan, it's like shouting, "We are in this together." Even music plays a role. During the civil rights movement, "We Shall Overcome" wasn't just a song. It was a shared anthem that made the fight feel more personal yet collective. Psychologist Henry Teifel's experiment showed that people will rally behind anything they share, even something as random as liking the same abstract painting. Wild, right? So next time you're in a crowd chanting or waving a flag, remember, you're not just showing up. You're plugging into something bigger than yourself, a collective identity powered by emotion, symbolism, and simple human need to belong. And that's social psychology doing its thing, one rally at a time. So, what happens when a movement wins? It's not all victory parades or happily ever afters. Most movements don't just ride off into sunset. They splinter, evolve, or kickstart entirely new battles, kind of like a band breaking up but with solo careers that might be even bigger. Take Occupy Wall Street. After the protest faded, it didn't just disappear. It transformed into various initiatives, influencing progressive policies like raising the minimum wage and even shaping discussions around the Green New Deal. It's like when a TV show gets cancelled but spawns multiple spin-offs that crush the ratings. The real power of a movement is its legacy, the cultural and legal fingerprints it leaves behind. Look at the US civil rights movement. It didn't just score legislative wins like the Civil Rights Act. It completely reshaped how society thinks about equality and justice. Or think of environmental campaigns. Their persistence led to international treaties like the Paris Agreement. Of course, not all movements leave behind glowing legacies. Some lose momentum or collapse under the internal conflicts and external pushbacks. Remember the Arab Spring? It ignited hope for democracy, but left many regions struggling with political instability. It's a harsh reality. Even the most passionate movements can stumble when faced with complex, shifting challenges. Movements are evolving fast. Thanks to internet, social media can spark global actions with just one viral post. But here's the flip side. Misinformation spreads just as fast. It's like fighting for a change while walking a digital tightrope. The big question is, what legacies will today's movements leave for the next generation? Because one thing's for sure, cultural movements aren't going anywhere. They'll keep rising, evolving, and rewriting the rules just like they always have. Cultural movements are so much more than just passionate protests or trending hashtags. They are driven by a web of hidden forces that shape, fuel, and sustain their momentum. Behind every rally, every viral post, and every social media change is a complex system working in the shadows. Power structures calling the shots, media framing what we see, and collective identity turning individuals into a united front. Power structures remind us that authority plays a huge role in deciding which movements rise and fall. Media and technology connects us globally, but also control the narrative. It's the glue that transforms scattered voices into a powerhouse capable of reshaping society. Honestly, understanding these forces has made me rethink how I see social change. It's easy to believe that change happens organically, but in reality, it's a high-stakes game with visible and invisible players making strategic moves. This doesn't make grassroots activism less important, it makes it even more vital. Knowing the game means we can play it smarter, advocating for more effectively, and maybe even steering the change ourselves. Cultural movements aren't just tales of struggle and triumph. They are living ecosystems where influence comes from all directions. Recognizing this reality turns us from passive spectators into active participants, people who can shape future instead of just watching it unfold. The next time a movement catches your eye, look deeper. You might be shaping the story without even realizing it. And if this video made you see things differently, hit that like button, share your thoughts, and subscribe for more deep dives like this one. Until next time, stay safe.